Howdy-ho, Internet! My name is Kira, and I don't have a jazzy opening. Let's just get into it. As always, a disclaimer, this is my take. It doesn't have to be your take. If you disagree with me and want to be civil about it, then cool, let's have a conversation. If you're just going to call me stupid, then please leave. I'm kind of sick of people doing that. But anyway, the title of this in my Google Doc that I'm going to be reading this off of, so, you know, if I'm not making eye contact all the time, that's why. I can't memorize 10 pages. It's Lucifer is Fight Me, so you kind of get the idea. But I really want to talk about writing and Rachel Kaplan and just such good writing. Oh my gosh, you know, this video has just been a really long time coming. I've wanted to talk about this for a long time and just never really had the time. So here we go. This is why I think Lucifer was perfectly written in Has Been Hotel, or like as close to perfect as possible. Sure, having a longer season and more screen time would have benefited everyone, but this character was so carefully handled and well written, it makes me want to scream because I will never be that good. Rachel Kaplan, the writer for Dad Beat Dad, deserves a medal, and I think it's a pity that Dad Beat Dad comes right after Masquerade, because Masquerade is just so good. Like, what an episode, and it almost overshadows the subtlety in the writing for episode 5, because episode 5 is all about careful, subtle writing that sets up Lucifer's entire arc for the season, and possibly the entire show. I mean, obviously, we don't have the entire show, but it could set him up for the entire show. Accusations that Lucifer's issues were somehow swept under the rug are really baseless and honestly frustrating because the writing is just so good, and it's a personal pet peeve. I don't know, to watch people not get it because it wasn't explicitly stated. So, hence this video. But okay, this is a big subject. Taking apart a whole character is a big long thing, and I'm trying to not be long, but probably going to fail because I make long videos. People who've watched any of my videos probably know that I can't shut up. So, first I want to talk about Lucifer pre-actually being introduced to the show. As always, when talking about Has Been, I do not use sources from the pilot because that was not included in the release of the Amazon show, and the Amazon show is what reached mass distribution, so I will be starting with episode 1, The Story of Hell. Part of what makes Lucifer such a character is that he is inarguably the most famous character that exists outside of Has Been. Lucifer has so much attached to him when it comes to biblical lore, or the lore of Lucifer equivalent characters in other religions, such as, if I say any of these wrong, I'm so sorry, Iblis, Tau, and Angramanu, and the many, many creators who have told the story of Lucifer and interpreted him in their own way, from the tragic hero of John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost to a sexy lady in a suit to complete your demon harem in the video game Helltaker. Then there's the Lucifer in Dante's Inferno, who is trapped in a lake of ice at the bottom of hell, ice that he creates with the vicious beating of his own wings, and who, with his 3 heads, chews on Brutus, Cassius, and Judas as fellow betrayers. Lucifer brings so much weight behind him that it is nearly impossible to not have some preconceived feelings towards him heading into the show. Like, if you're particularly religious, you're gonna feel very different. Me being not particularly religious and very attached to Paradise Lost, I imagine I went into this feeling very different about Lucifer, you know? Yeah, you know. And the show does present a new take on Lucifer. They maintain aspects of the character that have shown up in other sources, even the idea of the devil character having a relationship with Lilith, but the version of Lucifer for Has Been is this. Lucifer is a seraph, as signaled by his 6 wings. Seraphs are a very high level of angel, not just in Has Been, but also in the Bible. The 6 wings were necessary because the seraphs were so close to God. So they needed 1 set of wings to fly, 1 to glorify God, and 1 to hide their own faces lest they detract from the glory of God. So, they were a pretty big deal. Now, seraphs can't be the highest level of angel in Has Been because Lucifer was under the thumb of the elders of heaven, whoever they are, but we see that Sarah and Emily, the other seraphs, are the ones who preside over the heavenly court, so seraphs are definitely a big deal. Pre-Earth, Lucifer was a seraph with a lot of ideas and enthusiasm, and his very name, Lucifer, of course, many people know this, means light bringer. The choice of the show, and okay, I'll mention the pilot for a moment here because it's interesting. The choice of the show to switch from Magne in the pilot to Morningstar in the show for Lucifer's last name further cements his original self. Venus is often referred to as the morning star because it moves through the sky so close to the sun, often preceding the sunrise, and is generally the third brightest object in the sky after the sun and moon, if you manage to get somewhere where you can actually see the sky well. So Morningstar as Lucifer's last name really sticks home that idea of light and good. Now, Morningstar has been used in relation to Lucifer since the Bible, Isaiah 14:12 to be precise. How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn! You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. So it's not a surprise that other media have chosen Morningstar to use as Lucifer's name. But I do find it interesting that Viv chose to switch from Magne to Morningstar because it really does paint a different picture, with Magne basically meaning great and being associated with might, and Morningstar being little Venus shooting across the sky just before dawn comes. I think that's actually really indicative of how they changed the trajectory of his character. But anyway, Lucifer Morningstar was doing his little seraph job of bringing light, and the elders of heaven did not like his dangerous ideas. We don't know about God in the show yet, okay? God is not in the building, or at least not answering calls. So the elders of heaven shut Lucifer down and didn't allow him to help with Earth, but Lucifer, being a rebel, goes down, meets Lilith, who is also a rebel, and sparks fly. They get the idea that giving Adam and Eve free will would be a great thing, possibly because they were two beings whose freedom is currently limited. Like, Lucifer and Lilith were, currently limited, so hey, why shouldn't we, give freedom to, these other people, That's just, me thinking. That's me thinking. But when Eve eats the apple, it opens up the pit that becomes hell, and Lucifer and Lilith are cast into it as punishment by the angels. Now, it's still unknown how hell itself was created with the rings and such, and this is something that will most likely get explored in Hell of a Boss, since that's the show where we've met some of the sins. But here's where we get the setup for Lucifer as we will meet him. He becomes the sin of pride, the king of hell, and where Lilith flourishes as the queen of hell, Lucifer looks out to the sinners and sees only the terrible things that his gift of free will has done. Thus, depression, trauma, and self-hatred. Now, about 200 years ago? 300 years ago? Charlie was born a couple hundred years ago, but that's a whole different section. But just to finish the timeline, at some point between Charlie's young teen years, according to the portraits, and now Lucifer and Lilith split. It doesn't seem like it was a full divorce, he still wears the ring, but they certainly split. Lucifer now lives alone, and judging from the reaction of hell when he does show up in episode 8, it's been a while since he's shown his face. Now, we do get a few mentions of Lucifer before his appearance. He does call Charlie and ask her to meet with Adam for him. This does kickstart the action, and that's definitely mostly why it happened, but thinking about it from a character standpoint, Lucifer, who is not busy, asked Charlie to stand in for him during a meeting with heaven. Whether he knew it would be Adam or not is unknown. This is not a good thing Lucifer does. Why wouldn't he go to a meeting with Adam instead of asking his young, naive daughter to attend? For me, the answer that makes the most sense is trauma. Lucifer was deeply affected by being cast down from heaven, and that has affected his behavior for 10,000 years. It's a wound that never healed, and the fact he's willing to send Charlie in his place when we know how much he, wants to keep her safe, says a lot about the lengths Lucifer will go to avoid encounters with heaven. He's scared. Now, as a technicality, Heaven shouldn't try to hurt Charlie due to their agreement with Lucifer that Hellborn not be harmed, which is not a security blanket that Lucifer shares. He's not Hellborn. But it's still bad behavior to send your daughter to do something you're too scared to do. Which is why episode 5 is so good when it actually shows that trauma and gives an explanation for why Lucifer acts the way he does. At the meeting, we do learn that Lucifer once made a deal with Heaven. I cover that more thoroughly in the video linked above, but yeah, that's pretty much all we hear about Lucifer until episode 5. Now, episode 5 is where Charlie really gets to shine as a character. Viv's protagonists tend to be what I will call millennial core, which makes sense considering that Viv is a millennial. Some stereotypes about millennials include that they are more concerned with moral values than previous generations, leading to more commitment when it comes to community service, donations to charity, and finding careers that involve helping others. They will challenge the status quo, not necessarily in a revolutionary way, but in a way that promotes new thinking and creative solutions. They also value mentorship, so receiving help or praise from mentors means a lot to them. And they value community as a whole, probably because many saw a huge fracture in community due to defining events of this generation. While other millennial stereotypes relate more to Blitz, Viv's other protagonist, Charlie embodies the stereotypes I just listed almost perfectly. Does this have much to do with Lucifer? No, I just think it's fun. But we do see Charlie seeking a mentor figure in both her parents and being more concerned with her moral values than her parents, looking to change hell and being more concerned and looking to change hell in a new and creative way that Lucifer just hasn't considered. So, you know, it's worth a thought. Charlie, though, has huge misconceptions about her father. I go into that in detail again in the video above, but long story short, it makes no sense in the timeline or in canon for Lucifer to have given Heaven the go-ahead to hold exterminations, since he has literally no power in this situation. So the most he's been able to do is make that bargain that Hellborn not be killed. Charlie is just, majorly projecting. Trying to make it Dad's fault so it's not her fault when people die. And when it comes to their poor relationship, that's on both of them. Lucifer does call Charlie, and we learn very soon what that's like on his end, but Charlie assumes that he calls because he's bored and doesn't make that much of an effort to reach back. Now, as the dad, he does hold more responsibility for maintaining that relationship, but he doesn't manage to. This is totally understandable, though. Lucifer's life has been defined by being a mistake, by being unwanted. The angels didn't want what he created, his own family cast him down into hell. He failed as Hell's king due to his depression and self-loathing, and now Lilith has left him. Lucifer has no reason to believe that anybody wants him, and rejection is simply the norm. So he tries and fails to rebuild a relationship with Charlie because he is used to being unwanted and used to failing, which leads to the introduction of his character. Oh, this is where dragging Lucifer's presence in past media really works in Hasbin's favor. Even though the story of Eden has been changed for this particular show, the evil connotations of the devil himself are going to linger, which is what makes his entrance so delightful. We start with the low, menacing voice, what is he doing, what is the devil up to, and then Lucifer turns around and it's a rubber duck. We pan out, the room is full of rubber ducks. Jeremy Jordan knocks it out of the park with his voice acting and creating this goofy little guy who all of a sudden, the story of hell makes so much sense. This is the character we can see having all sorts of crazy wild ideas because look at the ducks! We can see him being told to tone it down on the ideas because look at the ducks. We can see, but mostly we can see from a glance that this is someone who was built to create, to be a shining light, the Morningstar. And now he is here making rubber ducks. Not galaxies or planets, but rubber ducks. It's like believing you can do anything you want as a child and then realizing your future is working in a cubicle for an insurance company. This is not where Lucifer belongs. This is made all the more apparent as the scene continues. Lucifer's behavior continues to be goofy, Looney Tunes, Muppet-esque. His voice is silly. He talks to his ducks. This is an eccentricity that we have not seen in any other character. In this way, Lucifer is actually presented as very innocent. He's more complex than that, but in just his introduction, he is almost childlike in how he acts and speaks. Even with that, hey, bitch, he comes across as someone way in over his head who doesn't really understand the language he's using. In fact, we just have to look at him, you know? He dresses in almost all white, a pure color that contrasts with the colors of hell. Hasbin has a very careful color scheme that ties characters together and ties them to their surroundings, and Lucifer being all white detaches him from hell itself despite him being its king. He is not the Lucifer who led a rebellion against God out of jealousy for how mankind was being treated. He is not the great betrayer. He is someone who made a mistake and is now clearly in the wrong place because of it. Now, putting all that aside to feel sadder, Lucifer has the family portraits in the room with him, surrounding himself with happier memories, and we get our first good look at Lilith when he throws the fire-breathing rubber duck at the portrait. And as if that wasn't enough, that's immediately followed by his complete freak out over Charlie calling him, which she apparently hasn't done in years following on that mutual failing of their relationship, and he has absolutely no idea how to even open the conversation. This has to be perfect, because he is so good at screwing things up. Now, the conversation itself has a lot to say in the manner in which Lucifer says things, and it's these behaviors compounded by the duck behavior that lead to the very real notion that Lucifer is dealing with a tangible mental illness, not just a big sad because heaven kicked him out. This is not a full list of tells, but some. The hyperfixation, the self-isolation, the difficulty remembering what should have been very basic facts, the complete shiftiness he has about these things, and the way he deflects his own questionable behavior by blaming being busy with important things because he doesn't want to admit the real reason. Even without Lucifer's now rather infamous "take that, depression," for anyone who has dealt with mental illness, the alarm bells should be going off. It was just nice for him to actually say it, so it didn't have to be a fandom headcanon. Lucifer is suffering from depression, and he knows it. Now, obviously, I wouldn't wish mental illness on anyone, but he's a fictional character, so, you know, taking the devil, making him this silly little duck guy, and then slapping depression on him, again, he's a fictional character, so I won't feel that guilty. That's a take. Okay, that is a take. And is what initially deepens his character beyond silly little guy, because that's the persona he will try to perpetuate when he meets up with Charlie again. With some added layers of unlimited power, he's mostly just goofy old dad. He hugs Charlie, he messes with Kiki and Razzle and Dazzle, and even with the feud with Alistair, there's all that fake laughter and very dry responses as Alistair pushes all his buttons. He has a facade to maintain, and what better way to maintain that facade than going into a boppy little number? Hey, look, it's Dad. I might whap bat boom all over the place with my wacky Muppet behavior, but look, Charlie, I don't completely fail as a father. I can give you everything. Look at all the things I can give you. Is it the validation you actually crave and that Alistair is going to falsely give you when he butts in? No, because I'm a failure and I believe that my validation means nothing, but I can give you champagne and caviar. Please, Charlie, take home my things, take home my things. Take these surface level gifts that show off my power, because that's all I have to give you, because I cannot open up emotionally to give you anything that isn't just surface level gifts. I'll pile on in a desperate attempt to prove that I love you. So yeah, Hell's greatest dad is really just a slow decline into insanity. And it's actually a good thing that Mimsy interrupted, because Lucifer is not doing well here. The entire song reeks of desperation, but packaged with a smile that really only starts to fade at the end. Oh, now, the next scene that becomes really important is the balcony, because this is where Lucifer lets some of his true feelings slip. There's also another inclusion of him spacing out and then freaking out because he didn't really register what Charlie had said, a nice nod to the fact he's covering the signs of his mental illness. But here he is trying to be supportive, but he doesn't believe the hotel can work. Why? Because for 10,000 years he's been watching sinners be horrible. They were gifted free will. Notice how this is said. I don't know why I'm finger gunning here. Okay. Notice how this is said. It's in the passive voice. And it takes Lucifer out of the equation. I gifted humans free will is very different from they were gifted free will. And look what they did with it. Everything's terrible. Now we switch to active because he's focusing on what the humans are doing. And everything to him is terrible. To be fair, it is hell. But when I talk about subtle writing that is so masterful in this episode, this is what I mean. Lucifer using the passive voice in the first sentence in order to take himself out of the blame chain, but then proceeding to wheeze like he's beginning to have a panic attack because he means, I gifted humans free will and look what they did with it, everything's terrible. For such a small change in the script, it makes a huge difference in how Lucifer presents the problem. But then, even after having distanced himself from the situation, he still panics and clutches at his chest, the facade slipping, the true guilt he feels over what he did finally showing. He reins it back in, focusing instead on Charlie, but his mask has broken now. We, the audience, have seen Lucifer as this odd one out. White-clothed king in a red city, Morningstar reduced to making rubber ducks. Lonesome recluse with no clue how to reach out, who can't believe his daughter would want to see him because he wallows so easily in that self-hatred and depression that has lasted millennia. Now we start to see the depths of his guilt. And that guilt leads to the idea that nothing can change. Yes, Lucifer is being protective dad when he thinks about Charlie being let down, but that's what the absolute idea that Charlie is going to be let down. She will be let down by sinners who are incapable of change, and she will be let down by heaven because it lacks mercy and understanding. He is being protective because he assumes Charlie will fail. And so it's easier for her not to try, because that's the mistake Lucifer made. He tried, and he failed. Again and again. He's still failing now to be the father he needs to be. That existence defined by being a failure. He simply assumes that Charlie will experience the same thing. Okay, now getting into Charlie and Lucifer and their reconciliation. They are so alike. The idea that issues are swept under the rug with these two is just silly. Issues get resolved between these two because they operate on the same wavelength and because the show resolves the issues between them while keeping their dynamic firmly in mind. Charlie is Lucifer when he was a creator, making wonderful things before the elders told him to stop. This is why he looks at her and sees someone destined to fail. She's too much like him. He wants her to stop before she can be let down because he knows how much it hurts. But since Lucifer doesn't know his adult daughter very well, he's missing out on some very important things when projecting his failures onto her. Charlie believes in her own power to change things, but also adds in that very millennial dose of believing in community, which Lucifer lost when he wasn't allowed in on the creation of Earth and has perpetuated in hell with his own self-isolation. As a side, it's brilliant that both these characters are projecting so hard onto each other at the same time. Charlie trying to project the fault of extermination onto Lucifer, and Lucifer projecting his own past failures onto his daughter. They are both so trapped in their own problems and traumas and react by doing the same thing to each other. That's why reconciliation is easier for them than other feuds between characters in the Helliverse. But yeah, Lucifer doesn't see Charlie's dreams as different from his own yet. When he needles her while Alistair is attacking the loan sharks, it's very childish, and all aimed at getting her to give up now. Sinners are violent psychopaths. How does he know? Because his mistake allowed them to become so. So, really, there's no use in trying. Lucifer is speaking to his younger self here, both the one in Charlie and the one from 10,000 years ago, saying the words he could have told himself before it all began and prevented a lot of suffering. He's also speaking to himself in the present, though, justifying why he has stagnated and isn't using that creative spirit that he was born with to help shape hell into a better place now. It's impossible. He gave humans free will and everything is terrible and nothing will change. It's understandable that Charlie snaps under that needling, but it is what gets her to say the words that really begin their reconnection. That she doesn't understand why Lucifer doesn't have faith in her. Because what this does is actually pivots Lucifer around into standing in not the victim's place, but the place heaven played in his own downfall. It was the elders of heaven not believing in him and his ideas that kickstarted everything that happened in Eden, and suddenly he is the one not believing in Charlie, who's oh so much like he once was. He has stepped into the shoes of the ones who caused him so much pain and so much trauma, and suddenly the idea has to emerge. If a lack of support and love from heaven caused Lucifer to fall, what could his lack of support for Charlie end up causing? Could he be the root of failure he's sure is going to meet her? Now, this association of Lucifer with heaven is a great move, and it's very subtle because, of course, he is an angel. And he still wears the white that separates him from hell, and he represents authority. But Lucifer himself does not associate himself with heaven, nor should he. Spinning the narrative so that he stands in heaven's place, though, is a fantastic way of demonstrating just how Lucifer has allowed heaven's actions to rule his own, and is now treating his daughter with the dismissiveness he once received. Now, we break into more than anything. Has Been being 100% a musical, the songs matter almost more than anything else, and like in many musicals, will move things along at a quicker pace during the song by loading it up with emotion, but quicker pace does not equal ignoring. If we think about love songs from musicals, a lot of these will pack years of feelings into a 3 to 4 minute ballad, and we, the audience, are asked to accept that because that's just how musicals work. More than anything, it's going to bombard us with information, but it is also going to resolve problems and set up the problems that have yet to be resolved, because Lucifer still has the finale to finish his arc for the season. Because I hate myself and short videos, I want to go through the lines. So, Lucifer.
Charlie! You don't understand. Heaven never listens. They didn't listen to me. They won't listen to you.
Again, equating himself with Charlie.
You don't know that!
Not realizing how much he is equating them.
I do.
And here is where we see Lucifer break. We see the tears. We see how thinking about heaven even after 10,000 years is still enough to cause almost immediate emotional reaction. And here's where Charlie has to start her part in understanding her father. If Lucifer's goal in this episode is to realize Charlie is not a reflection of his own failed hopes and dreams and that he needs to give her the support he never received, Charlie needs to stop her own projection and realize just how her father is still trying to heal from what happened. For him, it is not a storybook. Because, yes, I think it's meaningful that Charlie is reading from a book when she tells Lucifer's story. It distances everything. She does not refer to Lucifer as her dad or Lilith as her mom, and all the visuals are black, white, and shades of gray with some red. Lucifer is almost completely white or completely black, already telling us from episode 1 how Charlie views this story of her father. It isn't real to her. It's a fairy tale. At no time when talking about her father do we see Charlie think back to the story and remember, oh yeah, my dad's really sad about what happened, and try to factor that into things. It's here when Lucifer has to remind Charlie that he once tried to speak against heaven, that her storybook really did actually happen with terrible consequences, that Charlie is forced to realize that she's not dealing with a black and white idea of a person. Her father has been hurt and squashed down and is scared. He has reasons for not supporting her, and by showing vulnerability in this moment, he reveals what they are.
You didn't know that when I tried this all before.
So here Lucifer is speaking of, trying to change things, trying to change heaven, trying to make things better the way Charlie wants to, but he was ultimately unable to protect those dreams from heaven and its retribution.
And in the end, I won't lose it all again.
Self-explanatory, he is terrified of heaven taking even more than it already has, and the only things Lucifer still has that is of value, that's Charlie.
Now you're the only thing worth fighting for.
He doesn't value his own life, which heaven is capable of taking, but Charlie? That's an idea enough to incite panic. Notice how he drags her away from the spears, but he pulls her into shadow at the same time. Charlie is also a Morningstar. She belongs with the light, but Lucifer would keep her in darkness if she could be protected that way.
I shelter and adore you more than anything.
She is literally all he has left now, and I love the body language here. We have Lucifer in his room surrounded by portraits that depict happy days between the three Morningstars. We know he adores Charlie even without really knowing her as an adult. Here he clutches her to him as if she were a child again, and she's clearly not buying into it. Just look at her face. He is desperately clinging to her like a lifeboat, and Charlie has no idea why. She doesn't see the spears pointed in her direction. She can't see history repeating itself like Lucifer does. What she sees is that he is afraid, both from his facial expression and the way he tries to hold her here. Which is why her next words are,
Dad, I don't need you to protect me from this.
Dad, you don't need to be afraid. I'll be fine.
Don't want you to be crushed by them like I was.
And here we go. Lucifer spilling the truth. Now, Charlie might not understand just how bad her dad's mental health state is just from this sentence, but here he is, fully admitting that he was crushed by heaven and has never truly recovered. Here he is admitting that his lack of support is born out of fear of heaven and what it could do to Charlie, because he still has not gotten over the trauma of being cast down. This is a parent being completely vulnerable in front of his child, completely flipping the confident, powerful persona from Hell's Greatest Dad, and showing the reality of someone who feels powerless and lacks the confidence to do anything due to a fear of what happened in the past. So Charlie's verse here, in case we haven't picked up on it yet, the dialogue emphasizes how alike Charlie and Lucifer are, and most importantly, makes Lucifer see the differences between them, namely that Charlie is working within a community, whereas he was alone.
Dad, when I was young, I didn't really know you at all.
So when I was young, I didn't really, while they might have been a happy family, she never really understood her father, but hey, we knew that from the story of Hell. She doesn't understand the reality of her father, she understands the black and white figure from this fairy tale.
I always felt so small.
She always felt so small. This makes sense, seeing as he was, a storybook character that she was unable to relate to. She didn't not love him, and she wasn't scared of him. But when your idea of a person is so based on a story and not on actual interaction, they aren't really a real person to you. They're an idea, and ideas are big things, especially the ideas associated with Lucifer the Morningstar. So,
But I heard your stories and I was
enthralled. Naturally. They're so alike. Of course his ideas would be captivating to her.
Tales about your lofty dreams. I listened breathlessly.
Of course his ideas would be captivating to her. These were the instances in which they had to bond, and she had the chance to know him as a person instead of an idea.
Imagining it could be me.
Imagine it could be me, because it is you, Charlie dear. You inherited all of that. Which is what your dad is so afraid of right now. But we see here why they reconnect. Why these issues are marked as resolved and not swept under the rug. First, Charlie and Lucifer want to reconnect, and they are both in spaces where it is healthy for them to do so. Unlike certain Hell of a Boss duos, Charlie longs for her dad's approval, and Lucifer needs a reason to become involved in his own life again. Reconciling gives them both what they want from each other. There is no need for them to work on themselves before becoming close as father and daughter, making them puzzle pieces that are ready to fit together. They already fit together. It's just the puzzle was broken. What is required of them, seeing as they are ready and able to reconnect, is to actually cinch that reconnection, which will happen in 2 parts, concluding Lucifer's growth over the season. Second, the problems that these two had, namely the insane amount of projection they are both guilty of, and their lack of understanding of each other, has been addressed. Charlie blamed Lucifer for the extermination unfairly, because she was projecting her anxiety over people getting killed onto her dad. And every time he wasn't supportive of her ideas, it just seemed more and more obvious that he didn't care about any of it. Lucifer projected the idea of his younger self onto Charlie and could only see her failing and getting hurt as a result. And while it is good he wanted to protect her from being hurt like he was, it's never good to assume someone you love is going to crash and burn, especially when it made him incapable of seeing any other result. Even though the years they have spent apart played a role in widening the gap between them, that mostly contributed to Charlie's yearning for Lucifer's approval, and emphasized not only how Lucifer was affected by his trauma, but also something else that will be important in a minute. But the core issue of the way they project onto each other is solved within this song, because what they truly needed was open communication about their feelings. Lucifer does this, and in doing so, he reveals that Charlie can't blame him for the exterminations, and when Charlie reveals that she has a support structure, unlike Lucifer in heaven, that forces him to stop projecting as well, because whoa, that's a big difference between them. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
It's the view I had of you that show me dreams can be worth fighting for.
This is a great line because it explains Charlie while at the same time setting Lucifer up for the completion of his character arc. Charlie was shaped by her father's dreams. However, Lucifer had given up on those dreams by then. What Charlie took away, therefore, was not Lucifer's ability to see dreams through, but to have them in the first place. The drive to actually follow through on those dreams is in Charlie. Speaking of the view she has of Lucifer, it is a view of his inability to chase after things he wants, to actually pursue dreams. He and Charlie were enjoying their time together, and Lucifer smiled up at Lilith when she, came to grab Charlie. It was as Lilith walked away with her back turned to Lucifer so she could not see his expression that he saddened and watched Charlie being carried out of the room while she watched him doing nothing to call Lilith back. Lucifer does not fight for Charlie. She was the one who found him in the room in the first place and initiated their time together. When she was just a baby. Child, but, baby Charlie. He has made attempts through the bored phone calls to reconnect, but each time ultimately led to him failing and Charlie coming off with the idea that she was some sort of hobby to him, when he didn't need her to do stuff. In fact, it was Charlie calling Lucifer and inviting him to the hotel that made any of this possible. Lucifer does not fight for Charlie. He loves her, but he will not put himself out there. That is a fact. And that is part of the conclusion of his arc. But as of episode 5, it's still a reality. Anyway. Here, Charlie gestures to all the people she has around her, the community she has built, which, again, Lucifer didn't have. In fact, his community ended up being the ones who drop-kicked him into hell.
I need to save my people more than anything.
His projection begins to fray. He might see himself in Charlie, but Charlie is not just him. And it's the extra parts that can change her fate to be different from his. It also reveals that her motivations are different from Lucifer's. While he wanted to do good by giving mankind free will, it was not in the idea of being a savior. He was not saving his people, but rather pushing the envelope of creation in the way he always had. This isn't a bad thing. Lucifer was not attempting to create hell and giving Eve the apple. It's just that he and Charlie have different primary goals. He does acts of creation, the creation of mankind with free will, and it makes sense seeing as creation is sort of what he was always meant to do. Hers is an act of salvation, because Charlie is not a creator, but an improver upon things that already exist. The more differences between them, the less Lucifer can project.
I've been dying to find out who you are.
Lucifer has just discovered a lot about his daughter that he didn't know before, namely in how she is different from him, but also that she doesn't want his power or his things. She wants her dad. The only other person who has wanted Lucifer for Lucifer is Lilith, and that failed, leading to the natural idea that Lucifer is not good enough again. Remember how happy he was that his daughter wanted to see him? So not only is Charlie full of dreams, but also commitment, with a support network around her. And she wants Lucifer in her life to be the dad who supports her with love and belief. When she talks about how Lucifer stopped talking to her at the same time that he split with Lilith, I don't think this was, caused by the fact that she was just, with Lilith now. He'd been rejected by Lilith, so why should he believe that he wasn't being rejected by Charlie on top of that? Life of being a failure, remember? Anyway.
I've been waiting, wanting the same thing.
Charlie has always wanted this connection, reaffirming that they are both in the same place here, ready to reconnect, and both in a healthy place to do so where it would be mutually beneficial.
Looks like the apple doesn't fall far.
Looks like the apple doesn't fall far. This is a cute reference. I like it, obviously, because it is just cute, but also refers to the fact Charlie is also a rebel, like her dad, even if she isn't the same person. She still wants to go up to heaven in order to shake the status quo, the entire reason she asked Lucifer to come to the hotel. So yes, even with important differences, these two mesh and understand each other very easily because of their similarities. Charlie here getting on her dad about the time they've spent apart, which is fair.
I've missed that smile.
Now, this is just sweet, because it is Lucifer hearkening back to when they were close. And it isn't missing someone to show his dreams to, or someone who understands what it's like to have all these ideas for things that could be, but it's her smile, her happiness that he misses. It's heartbreaking because it's so simple. He just misses seeing his daughter happy. And now he's actually making her smile again.
All that I'm hoping, now that my eyes are open.
Obviously a reference to how they are seeing each other as they truly are. Lucifer having opened up about his trauma regarding heaven, and now seeing Charlie for who she is and not just a reflection of his past naive self.
Not be pulled apart again, 'cause in the end, you are part of who I am.
Beautiful does acknowledge that they are not only family, but very alike, and that they have shaped each other simply by existing.
I'll support your dream, whatever lies in store.
This line is so important. Lucifer does give Charlie what she wants, support, but notice how he doesn't give his belief. He will support Charlie no matter what happens, including possible failure, but he doesn't say that he thinks she's going to succeed. Charlie's line from earlier was asking why her father couldn't believe in her. He gets close enough here by promising support, but he notably doesn't believe. These are intelligent songwriters. They could have changed the lyrics to talk about belief, but they didn't. This is purposeful. Everything in this episode has purpose. Either Charlie doesn't catch the difference, or she gets that it's the best she's going to get right now. Love the choice here to have Jeremy singing a supportive role with Erica, because he has crazy range and a ton of flair to his singing. And while that flair was shown in Hell's Greatest Dad, the show has really done nothing yet with his singing abilities. But they kept Lucifer singing a very basic tune here to allow Charlie to perform the high notes, being the star of the show, appropriate as Lucifer throws her into the spotlight.
I'm grateful you're my daughter more than anything.
Love this. Love that it isn't a big I love you, because that actually isn't what they needed from each other. Remember, Charlie wanted affirmation, while Lucifer needed a reason to keep going. Being grateful for someone implies that they have given you something. You can give love without reason, but you're grateful for something. Charlie has received the support she needed, and Lucifer has his reason to change the way he lives now. What a way to end the song. So yes, More Than Anything gives us a lot within one song, but that's just how musicals operate. Like in Ready for This, that's a full recruitment of an army that should, by rights, take at least an episode to talk people into fighting, but it's done in a song. Maybe that's part of why the stuff with Hell of a Boss can't be compared to Has Been, because although it has a lot more musical numbers, as of late especially, it isn't a musical in the same way Has Been. In that Has Been actually relies on the songs to further action and emotion, whereas the Hell of a Boss songs are often the sugar on top that will emphasize an emotion that we can already guess and a character is experiencing. I am not downplaying the Hell of a Boss songs. I think they're awesome, but Hell of a Boss does not rely on its songs the same way that Has Been does. It just doesn't. Basically, yeah, they're the sugar on top. It's delicious sugar that I love, but they often just simply reflect something that the audience already knew or could have been achieved with dialogue that would have taken less time than the song itself. Whereas with musical songs, they achieve more in the song in less time than dialogue would have taken. Now, I want to look at the moment after the song because it does set up the rest of Lucifer's arc. He's done so well so far in coming to understand Charlie and give her support, but he hasn't done everything he needs to. Rachel Kaplan's writing manages to address and solve the issues Charlie has towards her father. But it does not fix Lucifer by any means because he has been broken for too long. Lucifer agrees to get the meeting with Heaven, something he is clearly apprehensive about, and even goes as far as to tell Charlie he can't be with her. From someone who sent Charlie to go meet with Heaven in episode 1, now he regrets not being able to go with her to Heaven itself. What a leap! Round of applause, honestly. Look at him jumping over that trauma. And then jumping over his fears again when Charlie assures him that she'll be fine. That's my girl. This line has double meaning because it's a term of endearment, but it is also Charlie challenging Heaven when Lucifer doesn't believe she'll be able to do it. He's ready to catch her, but oh boy is she being his girl by challenging Heaven and thinking it'll just be fine. He does tell her good luck at least, but look at both their faces when he teleports out of the lobby. Lucifer sighs and it isn't worried, but genuinely sad. He leaves. Just like he doesn't fight for Charlie, he leaves just moments after they manage to reconnect. Is he fleeing because of how emotionally exhausting this has all been? Very possible. Did he also show vulnerability in front of not only Charlie but a bunch of demons? He did that too, and that's another reason to get out of this place. But Lucifer leaves without warning, just after fixing things with his daughter. And she doesn't look happy about it either. This is what tells us that Lucifer's arc isn't over. So, let's jump to when Lucifer re-enters the picture. Episode 8 was written by Viv, so thank you Rachel Kaplan for episode 5. It was stellar. I think it's a very good theory that Lucifer was only able to join the battle against the exorcists when a hellborn creature was killed. He did give life to Razzle and Dazzle, meaning they were born in hell even if they were originally stuffed critters, and he appears after Luke slays one of them. This would further make sense with the idea of Lucifer's bargain with Heaven. Seeing as he has practically nothing to bargain with, but still retains his power as a seraph, him agreeing to not interfere with the exterminations would be something Heaven would want, so even with limited bargaining abilities, he could still agree to stay out of it as long as Hellborn were not killed. And then it would make sense that he would give Charlie Razzle and Dazzle, because then they would take the hit before she could. So, yeah, do we have explicit confirmation that that's how it works? No. But I think it's a very good theory, and one that has a lot of evidence to support it. So, let's just go with it. Let's go with it for the sake of this. So, when a Hellborn creature is killed, Lucifer is able to join the battle. This gives us a good reason for him not being involved in the fight from the start. Obviously, because from a story standpoint, they wanted a fight and some tension before Lucifer showed up and trounced Adam. But also, if he didn't take part for no good reason until Charlie was nearly dead, that's just not good. So, yeah, the Hellborn creature thing, I think it makes a lot of sense. It explains a lot. It would explain behavior. It's a really good theory. We don't have canon evidence, because all that Lute says is that your dad made a deal to protect the Hellborn. And that's all she says. She doesn't say what he traded for it, but it does make a lot of sense. Anyway, the important thing is, after being shown how Lucifer doesn't fight for Charlie in the past, here he shows up in her hour of need and proceeds to obliterate Adam. And it is the two of them working together, him saving Charlie and then swinging her around to stop Adam's attack here, allowing Charlie to be the one to show her hidden strength that decides the battle. Lucifer, who didn't speak up for baby Charlie to stay with him, who performed phone calls that only came across as bored to Charlie because he was incapable of actually reaching out, who left the hotel minutes after reconnecting with Charlie, despite them both being saddened by it. Here he shows up and he fights for her dreams. Once he fought and failed to fight for his own. He shows up now, knowing he is facing heaven, the family that cast him down, the entity he has been terrified of. But his daughter is threatened, and she is the only thing he has left worth fighting for. And so he will finally fight. It's nice to see Lucifer actually claim hell as his own. When he transforms, he gains a lot more red in his color palette, basically blending into hell much more than when wearing his normal coat. And there's obviously the horns and the tail, making him look more like a demon, and more like his daughter as well. He also refers to hell as his house when beating down on Adam, and that's very different from the way he tried to distance himself from hell with his words and how he was symbolically distanced with his clothing. After the fight, when Lucifer strips his coat off, white is still a dominant color in his outfit, but we see a lot more black on his arms and the pink of his vest, the combination of white and red. So this gives us a Lucifer who has landed far more in the middle when it comes to his identity as an angel versus his identity as the king of hell. The real cincher for Lucifer's character arc, of course, comes in the finale song. While Charlie is in the depth of despair for failing to get heaven to understand, Lucifer, who always knew that heaven wouldn't listen, doesn't remind her of that, doesn't "I told you so," doesn't needle the way he did before when proven right about the sinners being violent psychopaths. No, he gets down on her level and tells her that she changed things, which has always been Charlie's goal. And he tells her outright that she has outdone him, outdone her mother. She is the first one in 10,000 years to change hell. First one to change hell since its inception. Even if she couldn't change heaven, she is the first one to ever manage to change hell, and that is a triumph. And then we hit the reprise of Happy Day in Hell.
You can
You can do this, expressing his belief. Now I know it. This is a great line because it harkens back to More Than Anything. I'll support your dream is what he said in More Than Anything. Not that he believes. Now he believes. He knows that Charlie will succeed. He'll still be there as a support, but not with the idea that he will inevitably be catching her when she falls.
For your story has just begun.
Lovely throws aside the fact that Charlie introduced herself via the story of hell. That story is done. The story of Lucifer and Lilith and the creation of hell is finished. Now it's Charlie's story, one about how hell can be changed.
You can't quit now. Hell, you owe it. There's still damage to be undone.
This is such a great line coming from Lucifer, and I love that he's up on his feet. He's playful. He's spinning around, very much like Charlie did in Happy Day in Hell. It's a line that can be applied to him as well as Charlie, because Lucifer has aligned himself much more with hell now. And the idea that Charlie can't quit now because there's still work to be done can be applied to Lucifer as well. He can't quit. He can't return to his room of solitude. There is work to be done, and we will see him commit to that, rebuilding the hotel, to utilizing his creative spirit that he was born with, to actually being Lucifer Morningstar once more.
You've changed my mind.
You changed my mind. Outright admitting that his mindset needed to be changed, and that Charlie did that is huge. Lucifer is still a representation of heaven, and his view that sinners weren't worth the effort, but that they were always going to be terrible no matter what. That's a viewpoint that most of heaven shares. But Charlie was able to change his opinion, which gives hope to the idea that she can expand her influence. She now has 2 seraphs on her side. Big win.
You've touched their hearts, found the good in souls gone bad.
I love this line too because it's such a complete reprise on A Happy Day when Charlie sings about changing the angels' hearts, or whatever angels have, because she did actually change some angels' hearts. Lucifer and Vaggie being the most important, into seeing hell's residents as worthy of giving a chance, of fighting for, of believing that sinners can have their hearts changed as well.
Stage is wrecked, the crowd is gone, but by God, Charlie, the show, it must go on.
But by God, Charlie, the show must go on. These final lines are such a great example of one of the show's messages, which is one of community, of relying on people and not trying to tackle stuff alone. And it's also a great way to end Lucifer's solo here. And my analysis, because this has gotten way too long. Except I'm still going to talk a little bit. Lucifer is the ringleader of hell. In Hell of a Boss, we do see the other rings and meet the sins, which makes it all the more obvious that hell has been structured like a circus, and Lucifer, in his little outfit, is leading it. So in delivering these words, he's not only giving encouragement, but he's further solidifying his role and his new commitment to that role. He is still the king of hell and maintains the influence of that. So while Charlie might be changing things, Lucifer is still the one who will keep hell steady while those changes occur. It's very much a family effort, but it's possible now. Not only has Lucifer committed to believing in the change Charlie can create, but he also learns to fight for her and to stick around. He doesn't disappear after the fight like he escaped during Dad Beat Dad, but he stays around to rebuild the hotel and is right beside Charlie in the very last shot we have of our protagonist in the entirety of Season 1. Not everything is going to be great for Lucifer. He and Charlie will still deal with what Lilith's up to, and depression doesn't vanish, even if creating again is probably going to do wonders for a being that was created to create. And the fact that Lucifer doesn't self-isolate once again will also help with that. but it's not like everything is magically fixed regarding his mental health. But when we look at the issues that were brought up with Lucifer, we see how they were resolved, giving this character a beautiful arc across the season that basically addresses all the problems it set out to do. Lucifer is introduced as a shut-in. He is depressed. He is living in the past. He doesn't know how to fix his relationship with his daughter. He is he is depressed. Did I say that already? He's so depressed I have to say it twice. He is broken from what heaven did to him and terrified of what heaven could still take from him. He is racked with guilt over what humanity has done with free will and has neglected not only his family but his station as king of hell. Through fixing his relationship with Charlie, which comes about due to their mutual longing to reconnect, as well as both of them stopping the way they project onto each other, as shown through both their words and through song, Lucifer kickstarts his own healing. By the end of his arc, he and Charlie have reconciled through airing their issues and exposing vulnerable feelings, and Lucifer has started to break ties with the heavenly identity, not only through the symbolism of color, but by claiming hell as his house, and also his position as ringleader. He is able to stop living in guilt because he can see how souls can be redeemed. And so his gift of free will does not just result in horrible things. He faces heaven in fighting Adam, and also by ordering the exorcists to back off. If heaven cast him down here, then this will be his place, and he will defend it when heaven crosses the line. He also reclaims his identity as the Morningstar, showing off his creativity and basically doing what he was made to do in creating things once more, and by reappearing in hell as their head honcho to fend off the extermination. He's become a symbol of hope as well, just like the planet that heralds dawn. While season 1 of Has Been Hotel may have been short on time, none of Lucifer's issues are ignored. Each are addressed either within episode 5 or in episode 8, using things as simple as the passive voice to illustrate Lucifer's mindset in order to take advantage of every second of screen time, as well as the power of the musical number to advance characterization in the manner that musicals have always utilized, and that Has Been is fully entitled to do as a bona fide animated musical. This is a hugely complicated character due to the multitude of issues surrounding him, the entire lore of Has Been regarding his fall, and the weight the name Lucifer brings with it. Yet, he is handled as close to perfection I think possible. The writing of Lucifer Morningstar is stellar and deserves 10 times the praise it received. I definitely didn't address every single aspect about the writing because that would involve basically analyzing every word of the script, every choice with the animation, every single second he's on screen, and this video is way too long already. Too long, don't want to watch? This is how you write a character. Lucifer has a full character arc dealing with multiple issues, and each of these issues is addressed within the show, setting him up to be a major player in season 2. And I can't wait to see what they do with him there, because this team knows how to utilize Lucifer to his shining, glorious best. Hats off. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the video, if you made it this far, I'm going to assume that you at least thought it was interesting. Please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, anything that gets me into the algorithm. School's starting again soon, and I'm a teacher, so I won't have as much time to make videos. But if I know that people are out there wanting videos, then I'll make the time. So yeah, let me know if you want videos. I hope you're doing well, wherever and whenever you are, and I will see you later. Bye.